So, do you come here often? Well, hello everyone, I'm NokyaTheRobot, fresh out of 2 months of academic hell, and today I felt a little nostalgic. So I figured I should cover a horror game released over a decade ago, that I somehow got reminded of last night while playing Omori out of all things.
You're horrible! You're an irredeemable monster!
What took you so long?
Now I'm of course talking about Nox Timore. This short game released back in October of 2014 by... oh god, I'm going to butcher this, aren't I? Vidas Salvador Salad Fingers. Despite remembering that this game was popular back in the day, you will have a hard time finding anyone discussing it nowadays. So let's change that. I am your host, and this is Nox Timore, the horror game that the internet forgot. Starting up the game, we wake up in an empty room, with no explanation as to why we are here. Like in every good horror game from the early 2010s. The environment is essentially what you can expect from a game from this era. The grungy aesthetic of claustrophobic rooms that was the top dog before people became obsessed with colorful environments meant for children that are now somehow scary because there's a monster in it. The gameplay is pretty simple. It's another walking simulator, with the only real task being to find torn pieces of a note that display a message at the end of the game, which we will cover later. We begin by walking down a hallway from our starting room to yet another empty room. Crazy, I know, but when we turn back we can find a mannequin in the hallway watching us. The mannequins are pretty common in the whole Timore series, and they have a pretty simple yet memorable design. Despite looking extremely goofy, they can catch you off guard. Like when I first picked up a note and this mannequin suddenly pulled up behind me like he was trying to give me back shots. Let's talk about doors. They have funny physics in this game, but they also have the most mind-numbing sound when opened. And yeah, you will open quite a lot of doors, so you better enjoy hearing this sound every 50 seconds or so. Anywho, the thing that got me the most in this game was not a jump scare or a monster chasing me, but getting flashed by the holy light, like I was in that one gif with the baby getting vaporized. Like, it's clear that you were meant to get scared by the horde of mannequins, but their goofy kinda adorable designs prevent them from being scary, especially in bright rooms. Moving on, we encounter this funky hallway with what appears to be a Taylor Swift fan at the end, who in typical Taylor Swift fan behavior screams at us. The entity is known only as the Rotten Man, according to this wiki. Unlike mannequins, which lose a lot of their charm in the remake, I prefer the remake version of this guy, but we'll cover that later. After getting help from this fine British gentleman, we can make our way to, you guessed it, another hallway with more doors. But first we have to deal with the worst jumpscare in the entire game, a white face. No, not that white face. This white face rushing down the hallway. Now we can't just go wherever we want. No. Get this. We must first go to the library, truly the most terrifying of places in a game because of falling books and the nerd watching us from the distance. At the end of the library, we can find the key to the most terrifying place ever created, a public bathroom, where we can find yet another key to another room, and in that room we can find a flashlight. All of this while we also get notes. I'm genuinely questioning how I got scared by this game as a kid, but then I remembered that I was a small and dumb Nokia 3310, so it checks out. After getting the flashlight and walking down the hallway, we get rushed by the British gentleman again before we can continue. The next section is pretty boring. Like, this is everything that I have written on my notes. This section is boring. Like, off the top of my head, I remember that there were some rooms that had nothing in them, but yeah, eventually we reach this room where an environmental light makes some silhouettes be visible. Now, I have no idea what the story of this game is, nor do I have the interest to pay a collective of $45 to play every single game released in this series to figure it out. So I think, and I'm putting my theorist hat on, I think these silhouettes are meant to be either hallucinations or souls that are trapped inside this nightmare dimension. After walking through yet another hallway, we reach the final room of the game, which is a longer version of the room that was before, but at the end of which there are these steel frames, and after walking through them we are eventually met with a red figure. The room is getting set on fire, and the game just ends right here with the notes that we get are forming a message which reads, "I'm glad to see you here. Again. You can escape, but you'll come back anyway. You have no other choice. You can't get away from me. I am part of you. This is my world that you live in, and every night you're trapped in it." Which is then followed by another message which says, "Nightmare disorder, also known as dream anxiety disorder, is a sleep disorder characterized by frequent nightmares. A person experiencing nightmare disorder would have trouble going through everyday tasks. The anxiety and lack of sleep caused by the fearful dreams would hinder the individual from completing everyday jobs efficiently and correctly." So, yes, my dear viewer, the whole game was just in your head. Now, before we go over the reception and my own thoughts on the game, I think we should cover the differences in the remake, for better or for worse. Graphics wise, the game is an improvement in almost every way. The textures have been improved drastically. The Rotten Man and the red figure at the end especially have gotten amazing new designs that make them look genuinely terrifying, which sadly can't be said for the mannequins, as they feel somehow worse. Maybe it's because of their new faces, but I just don't like these new guys in the slightest. The white face got replaced with this thing, and while it's still a bad jump scare, I much rather prefer this new one over the legally distinct white face. However, what I do not like at all is the change to the pieces. They went from visible and readable to envelopes with a feminine voice saying the message instead. It was a fun gimmick that at the end all the parts combine into a visible large message. Now at the end the same voice just tells you the whole thing. I know TikTok kids don't have the patience to read, but Jesus. Speaking of which, certain parts of the game are slightly worse. The library, as far as I can tell, has lost the nerd staring at us. The first room with the silhouette just doesn't look that good. And the ending is straight up worse. Like, we went from getting cornered out of nowhere by this red demon to now we go to the end, we listen to that message, we turn around and see that thing waiting for us, and like some dumb person we go over to it. It just doesn't make any sense. It loses all tension. One good addition, however, is that there is a third encounter with the Rotten Man, which isn't much, but it's pretty neat. But other than that, most of the game is just the same, which I get. A remake is meant to be faithful to the original, but when you remake something you have the opportunity to expand on it, add new stuff, or improve in some areas that were quite lacking. But in all yapping, how was the reception to Nox Timore? The original game was pretty well received, with of course the big man himself making a video on it. However, the remake has not received that much coverage, which is a shame. Now, what do I think of Nox Timore? For its time, while on the most original game, it was a short but enjoyable experience, the mannequins being the highlight of the original. The remake, while drastically improving the graphics, is pretty much the same game with all its flaws. The main issue I have is that, beyond the nostalgic factor, this game does not really stand out. It's another scary walking simulator in a now oversaturated sea of scary walking simulators. I have not played the rest of the games in the series, but who knows? Maybe there is a hidden gem somewhere. I should note that I'm not going to spend $45 in the near future to find that out. But what do you guys think? Leave a comment down below. I'm interested to see what your takes are and if anyone else remembered this game. This being said, if you enjoy my video, a like and subscribe is really appreciated. I was Nokia the Robot, and I'll see y'all next time.